The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Welcome to Well Informed. Well Informed by ThinkSmarts is an affiliate of the Retirement Education Center of North America. The Retirement Education Resource Center of North America, it's an educational and awareness organization. We do not advise, market, or refer services to anyone. Today we're visiting Christopher Heights of Attleboro. Christopher Heights is a group of assisted living communities. And today with us is Walter Ohanian, who's president of the entire group, and also Ryan Perreault, who's the executive director of this assisted living in Attleboro. Welcome. Thank you for your hospitality today.
And thank you for having us. We very much appreciate it.
Yeah. And so first of all, tell us, how did Christopher Heights start?
Sure. So Christopher Heights started back in the mid-90s. We opened up our first community in Worcester and saw the success that it had. And from there, we ended up opening up 5 other communities since then, Mark, located all in Massachusetts. Our second one opened in Webster, our third one here in Attleboro, then Marlborough, Belchertown, and Northampton. And we've been thrilled to be part of the Massachusetts community and bring assisted living to Massachusetts.
That's excellent. Well, let's go in the other room and we can talk further.
Wonderful.
Thank you. So along with Walter and Ryan today, we have Michelle Woodbery from Two Sisters, and we'll get into what she does in shortly. And we also have Norma Marotta from PACE, and we've already done a documentary on PACE. So she's here to show us how PACE interacts with the assisted living component. The PACE documentary, if you haven't seen it, you're welcome to go to the archives, and it should be there, or we'll be viewing it soon. So anyway, before we get started with Michelle, I have a question for Walter.
Sure.
Real simple one. Is Christopher Heights privately owned, or is it owned by a corporation?
No, it's privately owned. A gentleman started the company back in 1997. He really had a dream of making an assisted living affordable, so when people ran out of money, they could still stay in their own apartment and not have to worry about getting a roommate. And he was successful in doing that in Worcester, and then was able to replicate that in the 5 other communities that we have as well, including this one here in Attleboro.
Wow, that's an awesome passion for someone to think that they would want to open an assisted living community and make it so that anyone can live in, pretty much virtually anyone can live in an assisted living environment.
Yeah, and he was able to do it by something called the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program.
We're going to talk about that later.
Wonderful.
We want to keep our viewers in a little suspense.
Perfect.
Because right in the middle of your website,
Yep.
it knocks you in the face. So I'm going to read it. So here it is, the Christopher Heights difference. Christopher Heights is not just another 5-star assisted living community. We offer unique programs of financial assistance to enable residents to remain in their apartment in case their estate is ever depleted. Their financial plans give residents and their families peace of mind knowing that their lifestyle and living accommodations are secure at Christopher Heights, regardless of future economic conditions. I've been doing this for 18 years, and that statement is huge.
Yep.
Because when somebody moves into an assisted living community, it becomes their home. And no one wants to leave their home, especially as they're getting older. And that intertwines with what we're going to talk to Norma about with PACE and how that works together. But before we get there, first, you have to find the right assisted living community. And the last time I looked at my database of communities, there's over 100 and something communities, 1,000 communities in Massachusetts or wherever. Yeah. So Michelle is the key to solving a lot of that problems. So let's talk to Michelle. Michelle, tell us your story and tell us how the Two Sisters started.
Sure. Well, we grew up here in Massachusetts. Our father was an administrator of nursing homes, and our mother was a physical therapist that worked for him. And back in the 70s, that was okay to marry your boss. And my sister and I were the result. And I didn't go to daycare. I literally grew up in a nursing home. And that really shaped my perspective on where I fit in the world. And pretty much every job I've ever had has been in a long-term setting in nursing homes. I'm an activities director by background. And my sister, she also has a similar story, but she was a CNA, certified nursing assistant, and we kind of took different paths. But our paths have crossed a few different times. And then and this is, in other states. So we were out in Colorado and Washington and California. And then our father was diagnosed with Parkinson's. It was about 15 years ago. And we knew we were going to be coming back to Massachusetts. We realized there weren't any local agencies that would help families find the right assisted living or the right home care or nursing home. And we were just young and naive enough to decide that we were going to start that. And that was 13 years ago.
Wow.
So that's how we got here and what we specialize in.
Wow. So tell us about the services that Two Sisters provides and how valuable it is to your clients.
It is very valuable to the clients. We offer a couple of different services. We start with a consultation for most clients. It's a virtual consultation during which we talk about what their goals are for their loved one. It's usually the adult child that we're talking to, although sometimes it's a spouse or somebody looking for themselves. But we talk about what their ultimate goal is, what's the objective, and then do we have the resources and the finances and the things that are needed to meet that objective. When we look at three major factors, we look at care needs and future care needs, budget, and location. And when we break that down, we come up with a list of places that fit the criteria, and then we guide people through the process of finding a community that makes sense for them. They're not all the same. Some assisted living communities can provide a lot of care. And some provide just a moderate amount of care, and they range a lot in how they structure their price and what the price point is, and that's what I specialize in.
Well, what I find interesting is Walter explained the founder of Christopher Heights had a passion, and you and your sister, Allison,
Yes.
have a passion.
Yes, we do.
And you're exercising your passion. And I can relate to that because this is my passion. So it's kind of cool. I like to let people know what's out there and what's going on. So my question to you is, what goes into finding the right assisted living facilities?
Yeah. I think that when it comes to senior living, most people look at this and they're like, wow, like there's all these options and what am I going to do? And for me, it's not that hard. Not that I want to compare myself to a personal shopper necessarily, but like I said earlier, with the three major criteria, care needs, budget, and location. And there are some others. I have a client I've been working with right now who's a vegetarian. So we're looking for a vegetarian menu or things like that. But we look at the person and the culture, what they did for a living. Are they more the type of person that likes to keep to themselves, or are they looking for trips to the symphony, or do they like bingo and crafts? I mean, there's all sorts of, is there a religious component? There's a lot of, and then I have a database and an amazing sister, and we're able to look at all of our partners and help them so that it's like directing, like this is the slacks rack that you're going to want to pick from.
So I'm going to challenge that because I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I work in long-term care, and I work in the insurance industry for long-term care and all that good old stuff. And people say to me, great, how do you know all this? And you, at the beginning, said, well, it's not that difficult. It's not difficult because you have all the resources.
Right.
You have the database. You know what you're doing. You have
Right.
the connections. You have the networks. But when you're caring for a person at home all day long, and they're depending on you, and you are their rock, going out, finding time to go out to find the right assisted living is a major task.
It is, and you just keep setting me up.
I know. It's my job.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good reason to enlist the support of my sister and myself, because we include we have in mind all of the communities in Massachusetts. We aren't necessarily partnered with all of the communities, but we're going to present them anyway, and we're going to help families really decide. It's unfortunate, but oftentimes it does come down to budget as being the driving factor. Sometimes it's care, sometimes it's location, but in many cases it does come down to the budget that's driving the search.
And so we're going to get into that later. So don't go too crazy.
I'm always going to go crazy. But in terms of what's the main motivating factor, and like I often say, well, you alluded to in the very beginning, people want to stay home.
Yeah.
And if that's their goal, then that's my goal to help them.
Right.
But we're not looking at just right now. And one of the things that I hear, what people ask me a lot is, well, I'm thinking about putting in a stair lift and retrofitting my bathroom, but like, I don't know if this is going to work for that long. And should I spend the money now, or should I sell my house and move? And so I talk with them about whether they should consider doing those things or not. And the truth is that staying home is complicated. And it's hard. And so while it can work for a little while, if you look at what's going to happen if you run out of money, and you can't stay home.
Well, interesting story. Again, this is going to go way too long, this interview. So my mother lives in an independent living community, not assisted living. An independent living community is a community where there's not the availability of the care. You can bring it in, but it's one level, it's a different level of senior living. So she's an independent living community. And I forgot where I was going with this.
No, good catch. No, the community facility, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, transitioning. So we sold, when my father passed away, we sold her house and we put her money into an annuity, and it pays for all her care, I guess people don't need to know, but they do now. So anyway, it helps pay for all that stuff. Okay. And a lot of times she'll say to me, so-and-so had to move because they ran out of money. And that becomes a problem. So they had to go to maybe a government program where they're subsidized housing. Mm-hmm. So that's always a problem. But what I also wanted to talk about is transitioning. Mm-hmm. So when a person goes from a home to either an independent living facility or an assisted living community, what we found is that my mother was home alone. She was locking the front door, and anytime somebody knocked on the door, she would come and call us. And now she lives in an independent living community where there's 100 other people, and they can socialize. So how do you help them with that transition?
It depends on the person. But one of the things that we have come to understand is that people can't anticipate the positive things of something they've never experienced before. So we can talk and talk and talk about how beautiful these places are and how wonderful and all the socialization options. But the truth is that until you have experienced it, it's really hard. And same thing with the adult children. If you're going into the conversation, like, I know you're not going to want to hear this, but it's time to look at assisted living facilities. That's a difficult way to do it. But if you believe that this is going to be an awesome transition and this is an opportunity for you, then that message comes across. I'm a big fan of the trial stay, of it's called a respite. And most communities offer a short-term or a trial stay. But that's one really easy way to have people give it a shot. And if you're here, the chances that you are not going to like it and you want to go home are very small.
So Ryan, you're the executive director. Do you see that a lot?
We do, actually. The requests for opportunities like that come up quite frequent, actually. We have one resident that's here.
So how does it work? Tell me.
So it's a similar process as to anyone else moving in as a traditional resident here. It's just a different structured lease agreement. So it's for a certain period of time. They would be offered any of the same services that any other resident would have the benefits of. They just have a shorter term lease, and as we get closer to the end of that trial period, we sit down and have a conversation, say how things are going. If they're going well, let's have a discussion about an extension or potentially a long-term lease and becoming a permanent resident here.
So if I own a home and I'm not sure if I want to transition, I can take 3 months off and go see how the transition is going to go before I sell my home.
Absolutely.
Winter's the best. Don't stay home for winter.
I think you're right. Who
Yeah.
wants to be out in that snow?
Yep.
So that's a great idea. Now, what if I'm caring for my parent and my parent is in my house and I'm caring for them at my home? Can I come here can I bring them to Christopher Heights for a month or so? Will I go away on vacation?
Absolutely.
How does that work?
So we offer typically either a 30, 60, or 90-day trial period. It's flexible based on what the needs of the family, what the needs of the resident may be. There's always opportunities to find the right fit for those individuals.
Because I know a lot of, I have a lot of clients that the family member goes, they feel guilty because they want to go away on vacation, but they feel obligated to stay with that parent. And I keep telling them that, no, you don't have to do that. You have to have your own space too. And the statistic, I believe, is 35% of caregivers end up needing care. So that's a huge problem. So caregivers out there have to find time for themselves. Right? So back to Michelle. Michelle, so you mentioned a consultation cost. What are we talking about?
So I just want to allude to what you were saying before is with couples.
Yeah.
It's really important to have the backup plan, because in many circumstances, one of them is the caregiver for the other. And while home may be working, if something does happen to the well spouse, which is, happens more than we would like for it to, then what is the plan we're going to put in place? And so that's kind of what the consultation is about. It's not just, oh, here's a list of assisted livings in your area and here's what they do. It's more of an overview and an education. So our virtual care consultations are the price is subject to change, but right now they're $250.
$250.
Yep, $250.
I spend that
not much.
dinner
I
on a
know, it's not that much.
Saturday.
And the reason that we're able to charge so little is because, again, it's about an hour, the consultation, and then we do get paid by assisted living communities. So when I work with a client and we were the referral source, then I get a commission from the assisted living. But not all of my clients are looking for assisted living, and for them, if it's just the coaching program that they want, we're here for that.
And you work in coordination with Norma and Pace.
We do. Michelle and I have known each other professionally and personally for quite some time, and we now have the opportunity to work together quite a bit.
Awesome. So we're going to hop into that in a second. But before we finish, how does someone get in touch with you?
The best way would be to go to our website, which is www.twosisters, that's the number 2, sisters-sla.com.
It's a great name. I know we have positioning for retirement, and I use the number 4.
Oh yeah.
For retirement. It's around here somewhere. It's behind me. But and that's great, because I always have to say to somebody, it's positioning the number 4 retirement, and so it's Two Sisters.
Yep.
The 2 sisters.
You got it.
.com.
No, it's -SLA, but I promise if you just Google Two Sisters, we come right up and you'll see
I think if we
my face.
Google you as well, Michelle Woodbery.
I'm highly Googleable.
I bet you are.
But we also have a podcast. My sister and I started a podcast a little over a year and a half ago now, I guess.
Oh.
It's called Surviving the Sandwich Generation, because we are the adult children of caregivers. We are the caregivers of our parents, and we have small children we're raising and a business that we're and honestly, of all the things that I have to do, like I would rather work. That's like the easiest thing I have going on. But our podcast is my sister and I talking about some of the things that we've learned over the years, coupled with what we're going through at the moment. And so you can tune into that pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you for coming. And we're going to continue this conversation. Don't leave yet.
Great.
Norma,
Hey.
hey, you're with Pace. And one thing I like about the Christopher Heights is we have Michelle that's searching for people, or people reaching out to her to find places, and she's filtering them out to what they need. But we have a great opportunity with Pace. And the name is so long, I always get confused. Tell us what PACE means. What's this?
PACE stands for Program of All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly. And
And
even though
that's
we
a
all in
mouthful.
our field are trying to avoid using the word elderly, it really is such a long-term and
Yeah.
well-known acronym that we still say PACE. And
So tell us about PACE and focus in on the all-inclusive part after you tell us about PACE.
Okay, well, PACE is a model of care, not an organization of its own. It is a national model of care that was established in the early 1970s and evolved to become what we know as the PACE program today by the mid-1980s. I work for an organization called Harbor Health PACE, which is a nonprofit focused here in the greater Boston area of Eastern Massachusetts. And when I say all-inclusive, I mean all-inclusive. PACE is an interdisciplinary team approach, and
Is
the
it
goal—
like going to an all-inclusive resort?
it's almost that much fun.
Oh.
Unlike Michelle and I, PACE does not offer tropical drinks, but it does offer what I think is the key to helping older adults, especially those whose medical needs are complex and whose situations throughout their lives may have been unstable or not the most consistent with their health care, is that all of their primary and specialty care services, and this is health care as well as social support, is under what I think of as the PACE umbrella. It's the luxury, really, of almost a concierge type of care where there is a care coordinator who's available to the participant. We do call our members participants because they are more than a patient. We encourage and hope that people will be active in participating in their care, or if they are fortunate enough to have family members and loved ones who are also involved with us, that they will have a voice in their care plan. But with a care coordinator in place, bringing that person and their family into the circle of the interdisciplinary team, which includes their primary care physician and all the other services that come directly from us, as well as from partner organizations like assisted living and some of the other community partners that we work with in our coverage area. Nothing falls through the cracks. Every bit of medical information gets from one doctor to another. Appointments are not missed. Prescriptions are not duplicated or missed. Medication management has a lot of oversight. And just the availability and personalization of care is what's the most important in keeping people at their best.
Well, I love PACE. I was sitting in a meeting, and the attorney said to me, he threw the brochure at me. He said to me, he goes, "We need to look into this." I said, "Okay." And lo and behold, we have a client that comes in, and PACE is the program for them. And it was awesome. It was awesome. The facilities are clean. And we have a full documentary on PACE. And, you know, as I mentioned earlier.
Sad but true.
There's so many, there's so many great people at PACE. We can't put them all.
Yes, there are.
So, but you have this opportunity here. So that'll break it down. But the all-inclusive team is huge. But let's get into your place in the assisted living environment. Mm-hmm. So tell me, you have clients in here, and no one knows who they are except for you.
Right.
And you're a nurse, and Ryan, and that's it, pretty much. So they're very private, so nobody knows they're on the PACE program. They could have come through Michelle to PACE, so you guys work together, or they could have come directly, however it works. So what happens when they come into the assisted living community, and what's the interaction here from PACE?
I think a big part of getting them into the assisted living community is where you and elder law attorneys and estate planning comes in, because to qualify for PACE, somebody does need to be dually eligible for both Medicare and Medicaid. So there are income and asset limits that need to be met to qualify for the program. That being said, when a PACE participant lives in an assisted living setting, we are not covering 100% of that monthly cost. The PACE organization is contributing the portion that is considered health and medical care.
And we're going to get it. We need to leave
Okay.
that suspense. We're going to get into that later because we want to keep our viewers in suspense. Because I made a comment that just about anyone can live at an assisted living,
Mhm.
and that's one of the components.
It is.
Great. So, how often do residents in the assisted living see their nurse?
Basically, as often as needed, but it works out very well for a PACE organization when there are a number of participants who live in the same place, whether it's an independent living apartment building or in an assisted living like Christopher Heights. That's what we call cluster care. So instead of a nurse, a social worker, or physical therapist, or another member of our IDT interdisciplinary team driving to one apartment building to see one person and driving across town to see another person at their home, they're going to come here to Christopher Heights, most likely weekly, more often if needed, and see all the PACE residents who live in that particular community, basically all at the same time. So it's less driving, it's easier access. If somebody thinks that morning, oh, I really should ask the nurse that question, they can always call their care coordinator who's going to say, oh, your nurse is actually coming out to the building tomorrow. You'll be able to see her at 9. I'll have her stop in and see you after she sees, your neighbor, or however it needs to be done. But they are visiting our participants on a very regular basis in the home for anything that can be done at home, which is basically everything that the PACE program provides can be provided in the home.
What if I'm here and I need to go to a doctor outside the all-inclusive, my cardiologist?
If
How
you
does that
have
work?
enrolled in PACE and you have a cardiologist who you've been seeing for 10 years prior to joining PACE, we will work with that cardiologist's medical office or a physician group that they may belong to create a contractual relationship so that any visits, services that you have with them will come to us. And again, that medical information will be shared with your
Yeah,
primary care
that's great.
doctor. A lot of people come to us and probably should have been seeing a specialist for something, and
Sure.
they haven't because of the barriers like transportation or their insurance wouldn't approve
Well,
it. Then we will find one for them.
Let's go off a little bit on
Mhm.
gerontology. So that's huge. That's only been around. That's what do you call it? Specialist label's only been around for what, 10, 15 years? If
Maybe a
that?
bit longer than that, but
Yeah.
there certainly is a need
Well,
for
I
a
remember-
gerontological specialty.
Right. I remember looking for a gerontologist, and back then there were only 5. And
Well, we
it's-
have 4 of them.
You have 4. Right. And so a gerontologist, for those that are watching, it's like you take your children to a pediatrician. So you don't take your senior adult citizen or your parent to a pediatrician. So there's levels. So a gerontologist is for seniors.
Specializes in the diagnosis, care,
Because-
and treatment of
Because
older
what I've
adults.
noted, because a dose of medication for your child is this big, and as we have adults, the dose gets this big, gets bigger. But then as we get older, as elders, the dose goes back or changes.
Exactly.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
Do you guys see that?
Yeah. Mark, the nice thing, dealing with the PACE program is the fact that they really help keep people longer in their homes. Whether their home is
Wherever their setting is,
wherever their
exactly.
setting is, and the home and the assisted living for sure, we can see the partnership that happens, and just being able to have the reliability of the doctor and the care team and the continuity that the PACE program offers. Ryan and I will see residents that live in our communities really do really well with partnering with the PACE program and just being able to allow them to stay in the assisted living longer.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thanks for doing such a great job.
I try.
So, how does someone get in touch with you or the PACE program to find more? Of course, they can watch our documentary, and they
They
can
sure
also
can.
go to RERCNA.com, which is the Retirement Education Resource Center's website. And there's under the virtual library,
Mhm.
there's a podcast, a virtual version of an interview with PACE. But how does someone get in touch with you?
The best way to get in touch with Harbor Health PACE is to go to elderserviceplan.org. And there is good, concise information about the PACE program in general on there, as well as a link to send an email directly to our outreach office and get more information about becoming an applicant.
Now, the Harbor Health has 2 centers.
We do.
We have one in Milton. I say we.
Mm-hmm.
You have one in Milton, on the edge of Milton and Mattapan.
Yes, it's right
actually
on
in
Morton
Mattapan.
Street.
Right.
Yes.
And you have a second one in Brockton
That is correct.
on the corner of
Torrey and Pearl.
and Pearl, which used to be a temple.
It did.
Yep.
For many years.
It's a wonderful place.
Mhm.
And so that's where we did the documentary. So they can also make a phone call?
They can also make a phone call, and come on, I don't know the phone number. I never called.
Ah.
It's on my card. Somebody has it. We can edit that in, right?
That's okay.
Yeah, it's
You
like
can call me.
774 something 6700.
I love it.
Get through me, my company too.
Yeah, we can get through any of us here. So feel free to find us and we can help. So one of the things that we like to do is just make sure we have the resources for people so that they can, figure out where it is. I know PACE with all the acronyms and everything else. It's a little overwhelming to understand the whole concept because it's a huge and different concept. And we'll get into the other parts of it later, how it's Medicare and Medicaid friendly and all this other good stuff. So that's wonderful. Michelle, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about PACE or Two Sisters?
Well, I do think that people often have the perception that assisted living is very expensive. And they're not entirely wrong. There are very expensive assisted livings, but when we look at the need people have, if 24-hour supervision or 24-hour support is needed, and assisted living is actually the most cost-effective way to receive that. And it also happens to be, really good for people socially and other ways too. So we work with people to figure out what price point will maximize the financial ability they have to stay in assisted living, and that often uses programs like PACE and communities like Christopher Heights. But it's not a yes or no. There's so many variables that go into being able to make this work that we can oftentimes put something together so that assisted living does work.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ryan, any comments?
I mean, we've been working with the PACE program for a little more than a year now, so it's fairly new to our community here in Attleboro. But like Walter said, it has shown some great outcomes for our residents, allowing them to remain in the community longer, feel safer, feel stronger, and therefore be able to socialize with their friends and their families for longer periods of time. It's a wonderful service, and we love working with them. And finding folks like Michelle to kind of point them in our direction and find the right fit has just been wonderful.
And it's one thing actually, to need the personal care, the hands-on care with bathing, dressing, medication management. But really when families come and walk through our door, just to kind of go off with what Michelle was saying, it's not always about the budget itself, but sometimes it's about, okay, these are things that are going on with mom. How can you help her? And I always tell families, if I can do 3 things, the person you see today will hopefully be different in 3 months. If I can make sure you're getting 3 nutritious meals a day, meds on time, in the socialization aspect of assisted living, really you see a resident really just thrive in an environment like this. And it's nice to be able to have that and have those successes and really see mom or dad being able to enjoy with their neighbor and socialize and be back at doing the things that they had loved for many, many years.
So it just dawned on me, you've solved
Yeah.
the top 3 problems.
We try.
So the top 3 problems, and we've talked about this at PACE, and we talk about this a lot. Top 3 problems with our with our elder community is number 1, socialization, number 2, health, and number 3, finance. And whether it's in that order or not, those are the top 3. And Christopher Heights solves that. So the reason I chose Christopher Heights for this episode is because of the statement that I read to you earlier, and I'm going to read it again for those that may have tuned in late. Christopher Heights difference, that's how it's termed, and it's right on their website. Christopher Heights is not just another 5-star assisted living community. We offer unique programs of financial assistance to enable residents to remain in their apartment in case their estate is ever depleted. These financial plans give residents and their families peace of mind knowing that their lifestyle and living accommodations are secure at Christopher Heights, regardless of future economic conditions. That's huge. I know I said that before, but I'm so impressed with that because as we talk, there's, I think one of you mentioned that some people think they can't afford assisted living, and they can. It boils down to, and we're going to get into it, but it boils down to planning. And it requires a lawyer, it requires a CPA, it requires planning, whether it's a year ahead, 2 years beforehand, and sometimes 5 or 10 years ahead. Now, as a insurance advisor, I meet with a lot of attorneys and CPAs, and sometimes people in their 60s start planning. And a lot of times the attorney will ask me, can they qualify for long-term care insurance? And it's fine if they can, but a lot of them can't. So that kind of changes the perspective of their estate plan. So when we do that, we then start looking at their tax plan. And their tax plan says if they have a lot of retirement funds kicking around, they might have to start paying taxes on that sooner rather than later so that the planning can fit the assisted living community or the PACE qualifications, which interacts with in-home care, assisted living. So that's important. So I can't stress in this part of it, before we jump into it, I can't stress more the importance of planning. And it's, plan now. What's the old saying? Plan now or whatever. Plan now or pay later. Yeah.
I like the seatbelt analogy. We don't put a seatbelt on intending to go out and drive to get into an accident. But if we do, we hope that it's going to minimize the impact that it has. And so while you may want to stay home, having a plan in place to make that work is a good idea. But if it doesn't, your plan will lessen the impact of whatever happens.
Which is interesting, and I need to get up 1 second. I need to grab a couple of things. So there's a couple of resources that people need to know about. First of all, there's the Shopper's Guide for Long-Term Care by the National Association. And that's easy to find. It's on, you can Google it, Google again, and it pops right up. You're welcome to call us. We'll print you a copy if you wanted a printed version. We'll get it to you. Again, it's the Retirement Education Resource Center. But we also did, the Retirement Education Resource Center did a study. It's 83 pages long. All right, and I did this with Professor Tim Gagnon, who's an attorney and a CPA, and he's a professor at Northeastern University. And I also did it with an attorney, Lawrence Zaharoff. He's a estate planning and elder attorney. The study, again, is 83 pages long. It goes through 3 different scenarios. One, no planning, which the chart is off the wall. It's off the charts. What happens to your, it's called the long-term investment and tax impact study. Taxes go crazy, investments go. Then we did one with the couple has insurance that covers the issues, covers the problems. And then we did one where one couldn't get insurance and the other one could get insurance, and how assets have to be changed and how different trusts are built, and how the estate plan has to fit the ultimate need, the potential ultimate need. And a lot of times this planning starts at 50, 60 years old, 65. The sooner the better.
Well, and one of the things that people don't realize, if you have a long-term care policy that covers home care and it also covers assisted living, if you are at home, then it covers the care that's coming into your home. And if you're in an assisted living, it covers the rent of where you're living, because it covers that includes the care, but it also includes the cost of living, the rent, the utilities. So I've a lot of folks who one spouse has the long-term care policy and the other doesn't. And while they may want to stay home, and bringing in care for a while does make sense, moving to a community where the person who has a long-term care policy is paying the rent and the person who does not is paying the second person fee, that's going to maximize the utilization of a policy like that. There's a lot of intricacies on how to, and even, knowing that ahead of time, not that you need to make a change now, but being aware of how you can utilize the resources like that. I have a lot of clients, well, not as many as I'd like, but I have a lot of clients who are just recently retired, and they want to know, there's a lot of people that plan for their active retirement, and they plan for what they want to happen to their assets and their estate after they pass away. But 7 out of 10 of us are going to need help with at least one activity of daily living at some point between those things.
Yeah.
And so, the planners are looking at that and coming up with what they would want that to look like. And, that's a huge advantage, because then they have the choice. They have choices. And I think, not planning takes a lot of your choices away.
Well, I always like the plan that people sit there and it happens. I happened to eat twice last week. I'll just shoot myself, or I'll just take a pill.
Yeah.
And that's their plan. They just decide they're not going to have a plan. And when it comes time to needing care, they don't shoot themselves, and they don't take a pill.
Well, and or I have had clients who not have shot themselves, but who have taken pills or tried other things, and honestly, they do not succeed. Yeah. And then they are more impaired, and they're in a worse situation than they had intended. It's a difficult thing growing old.
Yeah.
And to look at what are the best of all the worst scenarios. But they often aren't as bad as people think they are.
And we in no way recommend that anybody take either of those options.
No. Come to Christopher Heights instead.
Yes. It's a whole lot easier. And we can solve your problems. You get socialization, you get medication plans, and we stay healthy, because I can't tell you how many times I walk into an elder's home, and a lot of times I'll check the refrigerator, and there's very little in that refrigerator. Yeah. Or if I talk to them, they're eating alone, and for dinner was saltine crackers and peanut butter. So the balance of their meals are way off. They're not eating correctly. And then when you find out that they're eating better, suddenly they get more perked up. So we're back to all the reasons why this is so important. So anyway, let's jump into the finances of this whole thing, like we talked about, and why Christopher House is so great. So the first thing we talked about is long-term care insurance. So I think we've expressed that if people have long-term care insurance, that's wonderful. It might fit your category. I know I am always fighting with people to get long-term care insurance. And the two things that I run across is A, it's too expensive, or B, if I pay for it, I'll never need it. I've paid for something. Well, that's not necessarily true. I do it day in and day out, and I show people how to work that out, and how affordability is not an issue. So that's there. But other people that can't get long-term care insurance or a financial help like that, they have to dip into their investment portfolio. Or some of them have, and I do run into people that have large income streams through pensions or pensions and a Social Security, stuff like that. But that's wonderful. But when you start dipping into your investment portfolio, that's a choice, because that was your plan, hopefully. And if you didn't do any planning, then that's the plan now. And that can get depleted pretty fast, especially if we've got a large retirement plan. And for those folks out there, I don't know if you watched our episode on tax planning for retirement, but retirement plans have to be used before anything can be taken with Medicaid, which is a combination program that PACE has. Now, Norma, tell us about how PACE works in reference to assisted living and paying for assisted living?
Sure. So PACE programs are funded by federal and state, in whichever state they exist. So here in Massachusetts, by Medicare and Mass Health, and our participants are dually eligible for both of those programs. And in the case of an assisted living, or in case of all of our participants, we become their insurance provider as well as the provider of their health care. And when we are working with an assisted living, we are paying the assisted living a certain portion of its monthly fee for the resident who lives there, who is a PACE participant.
Awesome. So let's drill down a little bit on that. So you said you're their healthcare provider.
We are.
So Medicare is their healthcare provider, so you get that. So do they need a supplemental health insurance?
They do not.
Oh, interesting. Why?
Because we cover them with Medicare and Mass Health, which is...
So that's where the planning comes in.
That is correct.
All right. So I get that. So that's where the estate planning takes place. So what about medication?
Medication comes from our pharmacy, is delivered to the recipient, to the patient, the participant. And if medication management is needed, that's provided by one of the nurses on our interdisciplinary care team.
Okay. Walter, how's that work with PACE and Christopher Heights?
I mean, it's great just because of the fact that the PACE program will really make sure that all their doctors' needs are met, make sure the meds are here and getting delivered on time. And then we, typically PACE will contract with us and we'll provide that personal care for the resident. So we'll have the certified nursing assistant or home health aide that might help the resident get up and get dressed in the morning, may assist with the resident getting down to an activity program, help the resident with the shower if they need it. And then that collaboration for our staff to see something that's going on with the resident, then to get in touch with the PACE nurse to let them know what's happening, in hopes that if something is going awry, that they can bring someone into the assisted living to prevent them from going to the hospital and keeping them here in that assisted living and getting the care that they need so they can stay in their home. And the success rate that we've had of people staying longer in assisted living because of the wonderful things that PACE does has really been tremendous. It's been a great partnership.
I hate to use, it's a no-brainer. I don't mean to, whenever I say that, things don't happen. But it makes sense. And I want to let the viewers know that you're not out there alone.
I think we could all
You're not on an island.
look at ourselves and each other as kind of the best kept secrets that people don't know. There is somebody like Michelle and Allison who have really the in-depth personal knowledge of what aging might look like for different people because of the way that they grew up and the careers that they've pursued. They may not know that there are options like Christopher Heights, where assisted living is not exorbitantly priced out of their reach, that they have to move 100 miles away from their family to find some place that fits them, and that there are programs like PACE that are available for people who fit the need and can take advantage of everything.
Well, I'm just saying, I understand. I agree with you. It's a secret, and it's a sad secret. Everyone should know about it. And I've used all your services, and I've witnessed it. I've experienced it, and it's like I take the bullhorn and I yell out of that thing, and sometimes people hear it, sometimes people don't, because they're inundated with everything throughout the course of a day. And hopefully this documentary will help people understand more so.
I use an analogy a lot. If that's okay, I jump in.
Yeah.
As a business owner for 13 years, 5 years in, I'm still trying to fix IT problems. My email's not working, and I have some employees and all. I trying to do it because I didn't want to spend the money on hiring a tech company. This is something I should be able to do myself. And after learning the hard way, it dawned on me that my time is better spent. My energy and my time and my dollars are better spent doing something that I know that is in my wheelhouse, and hiring somebody for whom this is easy. And the more I've done that, the better my life has been. I've saved time and money. And so we all are very much like that. If anything happens to my email, I just call the IT company. I'm freaking out. But he's like, oh, I got this. And so we are that for people who've never been in the senior living space. And let's face it, most people haven't. So it's very overwhelming. And yes, you can do it on your own, but you don't have to.
Well, I'll interrupt you now. I mention to people a lot of times, this is something you're only going to do once or twice in your life. I do it every day of the week. Eat, sleep, and drink it. So why wouldn't you? You guys care for people here every day of the week, and you know what to do. You know what to do. You know what to do. And why would I want to try to recreate that wheel when I can just call somebody? Your services is a phone call. Your service is $250. Your services are a phone call, and then you all coordinate.
And this saves money.
Why?
Well,
you knew that was coming, right?
Yeah.
How's it save money?
Can I use another analogy?
Do it.
So let's say we're going on a road trip, and I usually pick on Denver. People who know me laugh. But we're going on a road trip, and we don't have a map or a GPS. We don't know how many tanks of gas it's going to take to get there, and if we have enough money for that gas. So are we going to get to Denver? Maybe, but we're going to take a lot of wrong turns. It's going to cost extra money because we've taken wrong turns. It's going to take a whole lot longer, and the chances of successfully getting there are not that high. And so it's similar with whether it's staying home or whatever it may be, that may be your goal and what you're looking for, but you really need to know what plan you can put in place in order to get where your objective is. And I think that's something that people often just set out and they don't have a map or a GPS, and they have no idea how to get where it is that they're trying to go. So so we've diverted, which is wonderful. I think these conversations are important for the viewers to hear, because stories are experiences, and that's important. And to learn from other experiences is extremely valuable. So I'm going to put you on the hot seat, Walter. Of course. And we're going to talk about, so we've talked about paying out of pocket. Yep. I was going to bring a wad of cash, but I thought that was a little tacky. We talked about long-term care insurance. We've talked about how PACE works and how that pays. So how does the low-income housing tax credit fit into all this?
Sure. So
people just on the viewer, they just want to, oh God, income tax, taxes. Go for it.
So when this building was being developed and figuring out how to be able to make it affordable to people, one of the things that we had looked at was something that the federal government offers, and it's actually you apply through the state. And it's just in general how affordable housing across America gets built. It's through something called low-income housing tax credits. And we applied through the state for these tax credits, were awarded the funds of credits to be able to help build this community. So what it basically did is it helped provide the capital, or part of the capital, to be able to build the infrastructure itself. So it's great because of the fact that it gives you almost like your down payment of you'd have on a home or a mortgage. And in a normal assisted living community, they might have 100% of their building is built with private equity, money that they've used on their own. So they have to be able to pay their own mortgage at 100%. Where ours, as we have received part of the money from the government, obviously our mortgage is going to be a lot lower because of that. And one of the things that they mandate when they give us this money is that we set aside a certain number of units to be affordable to residents. And at Christopher Heights, it's roughly half of the building is dedicated to low-income seniors. And so what happens is when a resident moves in, they might spend a year or two being private pay, self-pay, out of their resources to be able to live in this community. And then when those funds do run out, all they do is they basically switch programs. So they went from paying self-pay to then at that point utilizing the tax credit program through us. And they basically use just their monthly income to be able to pay for their residence here. And then we'll end up partnering with the PACE program that helps reimburse us for the services. So their rent will be used by themselves From there, maybe their Social Security check or a small pension that they may have. But at that point, their resources, their finances have depleted, and they don't have the amount to be able to pay what the full cost of it is to be here. But now, with us partnering with a program like PACE, we're able to combine both of those and make it so they can still stay in their same apartment, get the same services they were before, not have to worry about bringing in a roommate or moving out, and everything stays the same. The only difference that they'll notice is the bill has dramatically decreased, and Ryan will end up signing a different type of lease with them, and they'll really continue to enjoy all the amenities that they had at Christopher Heights that they did previously.
And those amenities include essentials like food, heat, roof, everything. So
Correct.
they don't have to buy food.
Nope.
There's a lot of entertainment here.
There is quite
Country,
the active social calendar.
Western,
Yep.
concert. When I walked in, they were doing exercises. So there's a lot of things to do here. So they're well entertained. What are the other facilities that in the Christopher Heights group?
Sure, we have ones. Our first one actually started in Worcester. We also have them Webster, Marlborough, Northampton, and Belchertown. They're all in Massachusetts. And each one of them applied through the state for these tax credits, and they all have the affordability component that's with them. As I mentioned, as we started the program here earlier today, it was really the mission of our owner to make sure when someone moves into assisted living and their assets have been depleted, that they still can continue to stay here, just as long as their health remains the same. And with partners like PACE, we're able to keep them here longer than if they were trying to just do it on their own at home.
Now, you briefly touched on the low-income housing credit, and that's not something that goes to the resident. It goes directly to.
Yep. So the credits when the building was built were awarded to the community, and how the tax credit program works is basically is those credits are then sold to a most likely a Fortune 500 company. And what they do is they end up getting a reduction in their credits that they owe the government. And in turn, they give the capital that we need to build the building at a cheaper cost.
So as a viewer, they honestly don't care how that works, right?
They don't have to do anything with their taxes, nothing.
Nothing.
They just have a reduced rent.
So all that you said is like, oh my God, I'm sitting at home, I'm watching this thing, where do I start?
Yep.
So where do I start?
Yep. So you come, you'll fill out an application. Ryan and his team review it to see where you might qualify within our community itself. And then, you go ahead and you'll move in, and we'll make sure that you stay here for a long time and don't have to worry about moving out because of money.
So for the viewer, he explained it, and that's great. All that you need to know is to contact Michelle, Norma, Ryan, or Walter and say, I saw this on Well Informed, and I don't quite maybe understand it, no one understand it, whatever, but I know I need to call you and talk to you about this. So that's all you need to do is reach out and touch someone. Am I going to get sued for saying that?
Does anyone besides us remember?
So all you need to do is reach out and call one of these, call Walter, call Ryan, call Michelle, call Norma, call me. It doesn't matter, and we'll direct you to the right place. And that's a wonderful thing. And I can't reiterate enough that people don't have to worry. It's just about planning. Mm-hmm. And with your whole conversation with the tax credit, I think the initial thing is planning.
Yeah.
And as far forward as possible, as far away from the need. Never too early. Yeah, so it's crazy. So anyway, that pretty much wraps up the content of what we're trying to do here. But before we leave, I want to just address the viewers and let them know that we have a book called Positioning for Retirement, which was written, I wrote this back in 2015, and it's available to all the viewers. We're offering it to the viewers for a $20 donation to ECAT, and also for the physical book, so let us know. And if you would like a PDF copy sent to your email, we can do that as well for $10 donation. But you can also find the book at the Ames Free Library in the local author shelf. No kidding, right? And so you can pick it up take it out, read it, and let us know what you think. And we also have the Income Streaming for Life booklet. In closing, I want to thank ECAT for doing this for us. And I want to thank Michelle and Norma and Walter and Ryan for your hospitality and the wonderful tour and all the information. So until then, please stay healthy, wealthy, and well-informed.